Welcome back. Round two. Tommy Grisafi here, coming to you live from Dodge City, Kansas here. What do we have a show for you? Not only in Dodge City, that's tomorrow. We have 3 spots left. If you're anywhere near Dodge City, you got to make it out. We got a great day planned. DM one of us over at Nesvick Trading. We'll make sure you get that. And let's bring in the star of the show, Mr. Jim Wiesemeyer. Jim, you've been a busy man. You've been traveling. The stage is yours. Let's knock off the bullshit and get right to what you know, my friend.
Okay. Well, I was in Stillwater, beautiful Stillwater, Minnesota Ag Leadership Conference meeting, and 3 of the 4 principals on the House and Senate Ag Committee were there. Senator Klobuchar, G.T. Thompson, House Ag Committee, and Angie Craig, the ranking member. And they heard what I heard from there, that we have low grain prices, not cattle or hogs, but low grain prices. And they were asking, can we have some advance 2025 crop farm program payments? Because right now they won't get them until October 2026. So look for a legislative push for that one, Tommy. That could give some needed cash flow, but USDA also had some good news for them. Within 45 days, there's going to be what we call a top-up payment for the ECAP program. That's the economic assistance, package that's paying out $10 billion. $8 billion has already been paid, so they've got some cushion there. So they're going to get a top-up payment.
I like it. I like it. I like it a lot. Now, what did people? Can you hear me better, Joe? I had the wrong mic on. I was talking. Look at, like I've never done this before. My brother had to text me. He's like, "You're using your mic in your laptop." All right. How are the attitude of farmers, Jim?
Apprehensive. They're now in Minnesota. Not in all parts, you know that, but in most of the areas, they're having a good crop, especially corn.
Right.
Beans. We're going into the time. We'll see, but actually, in some locations, they've had too much rain. I don't usually hear that, but the cash flow concern, I have never seen since the 80s. I don't think we're as bad as the 80s. We have crop insurance programs that we didn't have in the 80s, and I think farmers learned a lot from the 80s, at least the older ones. But I have never seen the difference between those farmers who are going to get by with low prices versus those who may not be able to. And usually it's the younger farmers. It's out there. There's a growing world of hurt. There were some sorghum or milo farmers there, and they told me in the panhandle of Texas, next year they could lose 1 million acres of sorghum to corn because of the price crash for sorghum relative to corn. So it's just when you've got basis for like the Dakotas for corn, 90 to $1.10 under, that's a world of hurt out there when you have those rising costs.
Yeah. And, I had the opportunity to meet Secretary of Ag Rollins on Monday over at RFD. Big shout out to the folks at RFD who allowed me in there. And she said that on TV. She didn't hold back. She definitely said that there's a problem. But the one thing I know, I've sat in these meetings. I've been invited to meetings in North Dakota with the senators. And when they give away money, they give it a blanket. They'll say, we're giving 80 cents for corn, $1.20 for beans. They don't give you the part back for the butt kicking of the basis. Is that correct, Jim?
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's just, that's a flat number. Yeah, that's no variable there. That's an interesting point. I'm going to ask them about that.
Right.
It's hard when you have an assistance program. How do you direct it to the truly needy? How do you define that? That's a loaded term, because some farmers are better managers of their operations. So should they be penalized for being good stewards?
No, they just get to buy a new F-350 with the government money, right? So, hey, Jim, we got breaking news, I understand, or almost breaking news. We got some heavy price action today in bean oil. What's the rub over there in bean oil? What are you hearing? Or soybeans? I hear
the emails I'm getting, if there's a government angle, they're wanting to know, they've heard that EPA looks like by the end of the week they're going to come out with their decisions on all those small refinery exemptions. Now, if it's up, that means that they're not going to approve that many, but because most people thought that they would approve more than a few of those exemptions, and that would be negative for soybean oil. But that's the only government angle I can get
Mhm.
at, because other than that, it would be a trade agreement between the U.S. between Trump and Xi Jinping, but I don't think we're going to see that until the end of the year.
Okay. Um, Let me check real quick here on the bean oil price. The markets are rallying a little bit today. Overall, the stock market's been coming down last few days. It's down a little bit today. Upon recording this, D's corn's up 409, call it 410. No soybeans 1048.5, we'll call it 1050. Soybean oil up 200 little baby ticks. So nice day there in soybean oil. No one's
Yeah.
upset about that. Little strength in the wheat. Oats are lower. Feeder cattle all over the place. Any talk of cattle where you were? That's just not cattle country.
There were a few cattle questions on what's the yeah, like what's the concern, and I told them on the demand side they want to know when the top is going to be in
Hmm.
cattle, because they know eventually we'll see the top. But a cattle producer will tell you they're watching the demand both on the export front but on the domestic demand. But now with that 50% tariff being put on
Hmm.
Brazil, we import more than a few pounds of hamburger from Brazil. So you're going to see upward thrust pressure for hamburger prices in U.S. supermarkets. So that's a concern because it'll have the consumers pulling back.
Yeah. Speaking of that, I woke up. I have CNBC. I'm staying at a hotel here in Dodge City, but I noticed Walmart came out with earnings, and they said we're trying our damnedest to keep prices low, but we're going to have to start pass them on. And I think that ties in to what you just said. Correct?
Yes, and you're seeing increasingly so the producer price, the consumer price index is not yet reflecting what some analysts had said for months was going to be the negative impact on these tariffs. But the wholesale price index, when it came out last week, was the first solid indication that a number of companies had built off their inventory and were just beginning to put some upward pressure on prices. And I think you're going to see that over the next few months. And this is what the Federal Reserve is worried about. You saw it in the FOMC, the Federal Open Market Committee meeting, minutes from the last meeting, of that there was there was differences on the impacts of the tariffs. And we've got Fed Chairman Jerome J. Powell in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, giving a speech tomorrow. So it'll be curious. The financial markets will really listen to what he says relative to tariffs. But bottom line, I think you are going to see some upward pressure on consumer price index, but the relatively lower energy prices could soften that impact. And you're seeing egg prices. Look how dramatically they've come down
Hmm.
since the highs of what, $6, over $6 for a carton of eggs.
Yeah, they definitely got after that. I'm worried about a headline risk for cattle. I'm worried about them. They did that big announcement last Friday about screwworm, everything they're doing in Texas. It's not a matter of if, Jim, it's a matter of when. If it's
That's
not
what
already here, correct?
that's what people say, because it's not that far from the border. But even if we get it, which I hope we don't get, it's not going to be like like bird flu, because it's just there's no damage to the meat, but and hopefully you can contain it. Uh, Brooke Rollins mentioned $750 million they're throwing at the problem, but that's going to take a while to get these additional 300 million flies. It's going to take a good year or so to get it. So, but the history is showing that it's going further and further north.
And it can travel on mammals. And we have a hard time controlling our border with a fence, and these little critters get to go right around the fence.
True,
So
true.
no sarcasm there. Let's get into our headlines. You sent us a bunch of talking points. We might have already touched on one or two. Before we do that, I want to tell people how to sign up for you. You have a newsletter that comes out minimum once a day, sometimes multiple times a day, right here. Jim Wiesemeyer, Wiesemeyer, Wiesemeyer@gmail.com. How do you like that commercial for you? You like
That's
that?
good. Thank you. Yeah, it's called
You're welcome.
updates, and I try to package what what you've known, Tommy. I try to build a package of the financial markets because interest rates are so important in the
Mm-hmm.
ag sector. So we look at the equities, we look at the bond market, we look at, of course, foreign policy because of where the next payment's going to come from, the farm bill. Are we going to get a farm bill 2.0? We can get involved in that. And then various market topics this morning was all the soybeans that Brazil sold to China in the month of July, and I know that's not pleasing to the American Soybean Association. We'll get into that later because they fired off a letter to President Trump on Tuesday saying, "Hey, we need a trade agreement with China because
Mm-hmm.
we're sinking here from U.S. soybeans going to China."
Yeah, I think I got a picture of that. Now, you said this isn't a kid. This is not his best picture. Who the hell put this up?
Yeah, that's the grower head of the American Soybean Association. Yeah, he penned that letter to Trump
I
of saying, please, 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 we need trade agreements, but especially with China because they're buying a few, if any, U.S. soybeans right now. So I do think that we will have an agreement, but the longer you go, if it's not in place by November with enforcement mechanisms, it's getting harder to, impact the trade flow. But here's what some China watchers tell me. Just because they're importing so many Brazilian soybeans right now, if we do have an agreement with China, they could still come in a big way to purchase U.S. soybeans to build up their stocks, Tommy. And
mm-hmm.
also, they could use their own soybeans for food aid to a number of their countries because China's big on food aid right now, and then they could replenish those with U.S. soybeans. So it's not as negative, even though we potentially will get a trade agreement later rather than sooner with China.
But on the physicalness, like we're virtual. I'm in a hotel, you're in DC, we're doing this virtual. The physicalness of ordering a train and getting it to Alton Grain Terminal right there on Route 29, and farmers from central North Dakota, right there in the Red River Valley, they use soybeans as their cash crop at harvest. Um, there's talk in North Dakota, we're going no bid. Not you got to
Mm,
sell them at a horrible price.
yeah,
No bid. That is so different than you lost $1 because of our trade policies. We're going to write you a check for $1. It's worse than that. Up there, in particular, they've lost the dollar and they've lost the basis, and you just don't get to snap your finger, order a train, and load up a boat. Correct, Jim?
absolutely. And that I haven't seen that for years. And remember, I mentioned sorghum and milo. The
Mm-hmm.
same situation in South Texas. They're not getting any bids for Milo,
Hmm.
and that you talk about a Debbie Downer for for a producer. So we need a number of things to throw this thing around to the upside. First, you got to put the lows in. You know that, Tommy. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
whether we've seen the lows. We got to test the lows maybe one more time. Then what's the upside? Isn't upside limited from what we know right now? So
We have
I
too
don't.
much, too many
Yeah.
acres, too many bushels, not enough friends in the business. Let's go through this slides. I think we covered this, right? This was some of your talking points. Grain
Yes.
prices, we're banging that out right now. Letter to Trump, we did that. I'm just going through it. Prices low, costs rising.
Cost
That's a
rising.
problem.
Look at the
Yeah.
look at the series of cost. I think we have a table on the cost side. The labor cost is one that you hear from
Hmm.
any producers or ranchers, even how to find labor and then how to keep them. And then usually a farmer will ask you, is there any chance for immigration reform? Now that we have the border secure, and it's secure, we have zero people coming across that border illegally. So now both Democrats and Republicans have said for years, once we get the border secure, then we can talk about immigration reform. But I tell the farmers, you have to convince a deputy policy staff member that Trump listens to a lot, Stephen Miller,
Hmm.
because I don't think he wants an immigration reform bill. So
Look
Trump's
at
going to
that
have to,
grin. The old
yeah,
Trump grin. Look at that. It's an
yeah,
old picture because his daughter's behind him, and
his
she's
daughter's
not part
behind
of
him.
the
No,
administration right now.
but
Look at you and I.
he should
Yeah.
listen to Brooke Rollins, who says they
Mm-hmm.
have to really soup up the H-2A program. And so maybe by the end of the year, we'll have a true immigration reform. But on the cost side, not only labor costs, fertilizer and input prices. You hear that
Mm-hmm.
anywhere you go. And of course, Canada, we're putting a 10% tariff on
Mm-hmm.
Canadian
I've been
fertilizer. Well,
listening to when I've been driving. I'm a big fan of RFD. Obviously, I'm partnered with them, but I've been listening to Real Ag. Your little buddy Sean Haney and his crew.
yes.
Oof, are
Yeah.
they good, folks? If you need something and you're driving, listen to
Real agriculture.
XM Radio. They'll have
Yeah.
all the shows on there. But my friend Tony St. James got the cow guy, Real Agriculture. You can go to realagriculture.com. Sean's a friend of all of ours, but it's not just us. The reason I'm asking people to go listen to Real Agriculture, why am I driving through Kansas listening to Real Agriculture? Because it makes me realize, again, my clients in North Dakota, guess what they're harvesting a bunch of right now, and they're super upset the price is low. Canola. It's
Yeah.
not just a Canadian thing. It's an American thing. And what they keep saying on Real Agriculture is probably China did this to Canada just to let the world know we can go somewhere else. So I believe they went to Australia for the canola. Is that
Australia for
correct?
sure. Yeah, there's a test shipment going on, and trust me, it'll be good. So yeah,
Mm-hmm.
China does those things. They have an economic might there on that. And then even on the other cost side, of course, you always have equipment and maintenance there. And
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that over the years. And when you're in a down year in the grains, the difference between getting by and not getting back by frequently, and I'm not anti-equipment company at all,
Mm-hmm.
but the difference in many of those years is whether or not you bought new equipment or used equipment. And with the financing, with interest rates so high, especially for young farmers, that's too much to chew. That's when I went into the financing cost. We need to get these rates down. Land rents, they're not good. They're
Mm-hmm.
not going
Mm-hmm.
down if there are hardly at all. If not, they're going up. Regulatory and compliance cost. But there's a bit of big news coming, or better news, because Trump is deregulation mode. He showed that during his first term, and he's doubling down on unfunded mandates. Most regulations are unfunded mandates. They're taxes. They're like taxes. So that's going to get better over time. And the last one is insurance, risk management, and health cost. I don't have to tell you that rural health costs are sky high, and
Mm-hmm.
your rural health centers, you have to go pretty far in some cases to just get health service. So you add that up. That's why we're in a cost price squeeze. We've had those over the years, and so what's going to bring prices up? Well, maybe a lower crop than expected from USDA in a not too distant future. We're going to get another update, or a U.S.-China trade agreement, something to put the lows in at least to get the upside in there. So let's hope that happens sooner rather than later.
Mm-hmm. Let's keep going over the notes. And I think you just, I'll go back to a slide after we got a few of these. Year-round E15. What's this, Jim?
When I was in Minnesota, wherever I go in corn country, that's one of the biggest policy issues that they want. They don't want a temporary announcement like what we've had under both Biden and Trump. They want a legislation, codify it in Congress, and we almost had it last year. Then it was yanked out. Angie Craig, when she was in Stillwater, says she'll insist on this by the end of the year. They'll hopefully put it in a must-pass, bill again, a funding bill, etc. They could put it in maybe Farm Bill 2.0. I don't know whether it's in their jurisdiction for that one. But what impact does year-round E15 have? The corn growers say eventually it could lead to an additional 450 million bushels of corn demand. We've got to utilize domestically more of the corn and soybeans because we've discussed trade policy, Tommy.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting these robust trade agreements yet.
Mm-mm.
So use more domestically. But I also told them in Minnesota, look to California. California is the only state right now that doesn't even, you can't even use E15 at all in the state of California. But the government there, through what we call CARB in the state office, is currently researching E15, and that could give another shot in the corn utilization of E15. I think it's eventually coming, and so that's just another check mark in domestic utilization to use more, because we got to get rid of this stuff.
Yeah, we do have too much. We do. A couple more headlines. What do you got for here? Immigration reform bill. Did we already cover that?
Already covered. Basically, you've got to deal with Stephen Miller, the deputy policy staff, because he's been a thorn on this one. But I think the atmosphere now is about the best it's been for years. With a secure border, you have President Trump, if he hears it from, and he does, from Brooke Rollins, like, we got to get more labor on this farm and keep them there. So that gets into your deportation battle, where the President Trump says he wants to be more flexible when it comes to farm labor. But I guess we could go into the Farm Bill 2.0, because I heard that in spades in Minnesota with Craig there and G.T. Thompson and Klobuchar. The will is there. What I told him is I think it could be coming out of the House and Senate Ag Committee, but they're going to have a trouble on the House floor. I think the Senate, I think John Thune, who's the Senate Majority Leader at Dakota Fest, said yesterday, I guess it was, that he thinks he can get the 60 votes. Okay, really? I'll give him that. But it's the House, because you're going to have about 50 or 60 House Republicans who probably won't vote for the Farm Bill 2.0, also called the so-called skinny bill. But so you need Democrats. And Angie Craig, the ranking member on the House Ag Committee, said, we've got some very negative feelings on how that reconciliation bill went. That's the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. And we're going to have some stuff on our side to have some skin in the game. So there's the test, whether or not you can have a true bipartisan approach to Farm Bill 2.0. I think it could be if both parties, both farm state lawmakers from both political parties, get together and throw out some more economic aid, and let the Democrats also get authorship of that, because they didn't in the bill you had December 21 last year, the $10 billion economic aid. That could get more than a few Democrats to vote, because of what we said earlier. There's a cash flow problem in farm country.
Big time. Big time,
Yes.
yeah. And the Board of Trade's rallying today. Big shout out to the folks there on LaSalle Street. We got corn up 6, beans up 12. Jim, we could go corn up 6, beans up 12 for 10 days.
Wow.
That would just be starting to fix how bad this is.
I agree.
Real quick, I'm going to open it up for questions. If you're out there, if you're watching, if you're listening, ask Jim or myself a question. Obviously, if we don't get to it, you can always call us. You can get a hold of Jim. Jim makes it super easy to get a hold of him. Sign up for Jim's newsletter. It's right here, Jim Wiesemeyer, Wiesemeyer at Gmail. He puts the links to this latest video podcast, the Ag Bull stuff. Real quick, as far as Ag Bull, how do you consume this content if you missed it? Well, it's simple. I'll show you how.
Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'd love for you to like and subscribe. And while you're at it, why don't you go to our social media platforms? We're on all of them at AgBull Media.
It's that easy, Jim. All right, let's take it from the top. I do see questions coming in. I think you went over all this. Let's talk about it and just review. Things to consider. Labor cost. It's a problem, correct?
Yes, oh, absolutely, going up, and we need a significant increase in H2A, and also farmers are having to pay a lot for those per hour rates there, so that's a drain as well. And fertilizer prices and other input prices, we've said those fertilizer prices are really ratcheting up again, and we mentioned the equipment and maintenance purchases, finance. It's pure interest rates. We need the Federal Reserve to start looking at the data. And I think September 29th and 30th at the FOMC, we're going to get probably a 25 basis point cut, maybe a 50, but the market's figuring 25 basis point cut. We're going to listen to Fed Chairman Jerome J. Powell on Friday to see how many additional cuts could yet come out this year. The market's debating whether or not there'll be 1 or 2 additional cuts in interest rates. Land rents, they are what they are. They haven't gone down that much, if at all. Regulatory and compliance costs are always a drain, but help is on the way on there because Trump is very, and his cabinet is very deregulatory in design. And of course, insurance, risk management costs are going up, and healthcare costs. Any Americans know if they have to pay for health that the cost have risen dramatically.
Well said there, youngster. My wife and I are fixing up our home, and we're not sure if we're going to keep it or sell it. It's not that I can't afford it; it's that I'm not there a lot, and so I'm paying for, like, you got the big beautiful bill, I get the big beautiful home. I don't get to use it. I don't get to sit in the backyard. I don't get to uh, look at the landscaping. Why the hell do I have it? And my insurance has exploded on it.
Absolutely.
I'm ready to become a renter. And I do rent. I currently rent in downtown Nashville, but I'm thinking about renting a big place in Nashville and just saying I'm done with it. What do you think of that?
I was going through the same thing, except I went through a remodeling for 3 years during the COVID years. But I'll tell you, I put more marble in my 4 bathrooms. I told my sister that I want to be buried there, Tommy. That's
You made it look like you ever see when Obama was teasing Trump during that it's probably what got Trump to run, when President Obama embarrassed President Trump during the press corps annual dinner, and he did the White House all in glitter. If Trump was president, would all have diamonds and this and that and sparkles, and oh God, love him or hate him, this is our president of the United States, and I love the United States. You can all have your own opinion about the president. Okay, we're going to go into questions, but I do have one strange thing I want to bring up as a market guy, as someone who trades at the board, someone who owns a seat at the board. What the heck was this last night? I'll read it to all you, because I know some of you are listening on the podcast, and thank you for listening. Together, our event-based products will appeal to the growing public interest in markets, and we will provide education to attract a new generation of potential traders not active in derivative today. Terry Duffy. Now, Terry is a good man. He does a great job of representing the CME. Did the CME group just partner with the sports betting app,
It
Jim?
looks like they did. I wanted to research this, so I didn't write about it this morning. I want to be factual on it. But if it's
You
true,
mean you still do that? There's still people who are factual. You're not a cut and paster.
there is not many out there anymore. Let
Rumor
me tell
has it,
you.
huh? Oh,
Especially
shit.
in the news operation.
Yeah.
The only one I trust is really Brett Baer on Fox, to tell you the truth. Not the Hannitys, but the Brett Baer. He's a true
Have
reporter.
you ever met Brett Baer, or you just like him, or
I've seen him. I've seen him, and
know.
I'm telling you, he's the best on television. But if that's true, Tommy, it just would bring more liquidity into the market. And as a trader, the more liquidity you have, and the more potential volatility. Traders like volatility.
I'd like that. Yeah.
Yes.
All right. We got a really good question. This is from a friend, Luke. He's been a friend of the show forever. I'm going to plop it up there. He might have been on his tractor plopping this out. So let's see if this makes sense here. Can you see that, Jim?
EPA administrator has raised the question of emissions deregulation. Will EPA shift to an overall emissions regulation rather than tailpipe alone? Emission parts warranty cost a ton on equipment and vehicles. I totally agree with you. And I will tell you, the odds are at least pretty good. The reason? I have never seen ever since the EPA started under President Nixon, by the way, he created the EPA. I have never seen an EPA administrator at the top of EPA as ag and energy friendly as Lee Zeldin. He's the EPA administrator. Okay. So at least the atmosphere is right, Luke, on that question. Okay.
Very good. Well, you wanted to go a half hour. We're at a half hour. Let's take a moment for station identification. I want you to subscribe to the one and only Jim Wiesemeyer. How do you describe your newsletter? It is...
it's a digital ag newspaper, basically.
I'm clicking buttons. There it is, right there. And it comes out daily, but sometimes multiple times a day.
Well, if there's a special report that needs to be put out, that doesn't fit the overall, and I don't want to bury it in the updates, then I'll put out a special. Like if EPA came out with a special with a small refinery exemption, I'd probably put out another report today. But other than that, I go to my friendly bar and then come back and watch the Brett Baer show and get ready for Trump's social media tirades in the evening, and have to get ready for the next day.
For those of you listening on Apple, Spotify, Buzzsprout, however you get your digital podcast, that's Wiesemeyer. Spell it out, Jim. You with the nursery rhyme. Let's go from the top.
WIESEMEYER@gmail.com. Every other letter is an E except at the beginning. That's how I learned it as a kid.
That's how you subscribe. Jim Wiesemeyer coming to you from DC, Tommy Grisafi in Dodge City, Kansas. Folks, we got a few more spots open if you'd like to make it out here. We'd love to have you. I'm clicking buttons. Nothing's moving. I will be able to end the show. Jim, I want to keep going, and I can't wait till next week. I will get this up on podcast form here in the next half hour. And I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, it's an absolute privilege to work with you.
Oh, it's always good to work with you now. And maybe Wednesday or Thursday next week. We haven't decided yet, but we're going to shoot for Wednesdays.
We'll always try to go Wednesday live. If not, we'll record it and we'll release it. Maybe we record it Wednesday night and release it Thursday. We're trying to be consistent, but you're out there public speaking. I'm out there public speaking. I will not, special note, I will not be able to go live next week with you during the day because I will be hosting Cow Guy Close from 12:30 to 1:30 on RFD TV, and I have to do my day job, prep for that. So we definitely will have to record it Tuesday night, release it Wednesday at this time.
We'll work it out. We'll work it out.
Yes, sir, we will. All right, till next time, Tommy Grisafi, Jim Wiesemeyer, Wiesemeyer's Perspectives. See you, everyone.